Hello everybody, and I promise you this is my final Instagram live of this series. I feel like I may have said that last time, and then here I am again. I'm back. So one more episode. Still not sure if we call these episodes, but brace yourselves. I don't know how this is going to go. This is the first Instagram live I've done solo, and I'm not going to lie, it's 10 times more nerve-wracking than doing it with a guest. So yeah, don't know how this is going to go. Don't know how long I'm going to be online for. But I just wanted to really, firstly, let me introduce myself, just in case there's anyone watching who hasn't met me before. So my name's Becky Greaves, and I run the Mindful Ginger Nut. Which, to give you a bit of backstory, started off as a blog post many years ago, 7-8 years ago now, I think. So my blog post was known as my blog was known as the Mindful Musings of a Ginger Nut. And then when I set up my business almost 5 years ago now, it kind of felt natural to just become the Mindful Ginger Nut. So that's what I did. And if you're not aware of what I do, I'm a social media manager. So largely I manage other people's content channels for them, their social channels. I do a little bit of photography on the side. So I've just started working with a lovely new client who's taken me on as their social media manager, but I'm also doing some product photography for them. So it's really quite a varied role. What else do I do? I've done a bit of podcast transcript editing, which I love. Design a few graphics. I am not a graphic designer, but I have fun doing it. And I could spend all day in Canva. Sorry for anyone out there who doesn't like Canva. I'm a big fan. That's a little bit about me and what I do. So I work for myself. Don't have a team of people. It's just me, myself and I. I've been on this journey for just under 5 years now. So hello, Eagle and Web Design. Lovely of you to join me. Hopefully there'll be a few people popping up this afternoon. But if not, I'm here to answer any questions that you might have, either about what I do or my thoughts on the finding a better harmony between being online and our well-being, because it's a subject that I've been talking about a lot over recent weeks with my various guests that I've had on, because for me, we live in a very stressful world right now. And it's really important that we do find a balance between spending time online, because I don't believe it has to be a negative space all the time. I think a lot of people see it as that. But for me personally, and I'll talk about it in more detail later on, but I use my content, I don't know what to call it, my content searching, I guess. When I'm scrolling through Instagram in the evening, like I'm looking at stuff that's educating me or is improving my own well-being, or is just giving me knowledge or making me laugh. So I'll talk a little bit about how I've done that as well. Over the summer I've run this beautiful Instagram live series around the topic of finding harmony between the online space and our well-being, and I've had some brilliant guests on. I was joined by the fabulous Emma Hodges, who came on and spoke about sustainable marketing, Sarah Browning, who came to talk all about the lovely world of kindness. Emma Gower joined me and we talked about how it is being an empath online in this crazy online world. Then in the second half of the series, I was joined by Karina and we were talking about Ayurvedic wellbeing. Kate Llewellyn joined me to talk about mental health and all things online, social media stuff. And then finally last week, I was joined by Penny Pickering from Co-Work Crew. We were talking about the differences between online communities and in-person communities. And hello to everybody who's joining. If you do have any questions or comments, please do pop them in the comments box, because it'd be great to get some engagement this afternoon. I'm going to keep this as short as possible, because otherwise I will go off on a tangent, I will waffle, and yeah, that's never going to get me into a good place. Hi Ange, thanks for joining. So yeah, some things I wanted to just talk through really that I've got from the last few weeks, because the wonderful guests that I've had on, they've come with so much knowledge around, obviously it's areas that they're passionate about, and there is an overlap between what they do and what I do in terms of either our field of interest or our day jobs. But I've learned so much from them, so I can't actually wait to put some of the tips that they've come up with like into practice myself. So if you haven't watched those, they're all available on my feed, on my Instagram feed. I've put snippets over on LinkedIn, and then the full recordings are over on my new YouTube channel as well. So if you're a YouTube user, I don't know what you call it over there. Is it a handle? I'm the Mindful Gingernet everywhere basically. So go check it out. And then what else was I going to say? So yeah, some of my key takeaways from those sessions. Emma spoke really well, Emma Hodges, around repurposing content. So if we're feeling stressed as people who are marketing ourselves constantly, particularly if we're running our own businesses, it can be really overwhelming, coming up with new ideas all the time, knowing what to post, but we easily forget that there's a whole load of content already out there that we've probably already produced, like blog posts, newsletters, that we can just take stuff from those and create social media posts from those. So just take the pressure off us a little bit. I had a brilliant session with Sarah just before England were due to play in the, oh my God, I'm perimenopausal, by the way, so I actually can't remember whether it was the Euros or the World Cup. I think it was the Euros. It was the Euros. So England were just about to play in the Euros, and we had a really lovely session just before they played. And she's a big football fan as well, so it was great to have her on. But we were talking about kindness and finding kindness online. And I think it was really quite an important conversation, particularly with the game being on that evening. And Jess Carter, who's one of the England players, if you're not aware of the women's team, she'd been receiving quite a lot of racial abuse online in the lead up to that game. So it was really quite interesting that we were having this sort of side conversation about football, but then also talking about how kind we should be and need to be more online. And we were talking about the fact that you just sometimes need to take a breath. Something that I'm not very good at, by the way. There will be a lot of waffle. I've already warned you. So just take a breath before you comment on something, because you want to try and avoid that back and forth. But also take a pause before you comment, but before you post as well. Like, do you really, I don't know. Go back and listen to the chat. Thanks, Ange. I'm trying my best. I'm definitely on the cusp of the waffle. So yeah, go back and listen to that chat. It was really great. Sarah is brilliant, and she's doing some really lovely stuff in the kindness space. I also wanted to talk about very briefly the conversation that I had with Penny last week, because I think it was also a really important conversation to have about online communities and in-person communities, because for me personally, I feel like when I join a community, this isn't the community's fault, this is a personal thing. I feel like then I need to engage with everything that they do. And actually there are so many communities out there, and I want to be part of more than just one community, but trying to go to everything, I don't have the time, the mental capacity to do it. So some of it is just taking the pressure off ourselves and go, right, actually these communities are just here to dip in and out of when I need them. And just, reframing stuff. It's like, why haven't I thought of that? Why do I sit here and put all this pressure on myself? And that's a really good point you raised. So Anne just put, for those that are watching this on replay, you don't need to comment on everything, especially in a moment of rage or stress. And I think that's such an important point. thank goodness I'm no longer on Twitter. My one and only stupid exchange I've ever had with anybody was on what is now X and formerly Twitter. And I got into such a back and forth with somebody, and looking back, I should have just paused, taken a breath, and not replied, but I didn't do that, and it ended up in a very late back and forth and two very stressed people at the end of the day. So neither of us won the argument, there was no resolution to it, but I learned a lot from it. So yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. And there is a lot out there at the moment that is making us angry and is making us stressed, and everyone has such very different viewpoints on it. So yeah, just take a breath. And I think if you go into the comments on some posts, like the posts themselves can be saying something really beautiful or something really meaningful, and then you open the comments section and they're insane. Like, you will never please everybody with what you're posting. There will always be people who want to criticise. Those people sadly are never going to go away, but we have to make a decision as to whether we want to engage with them or not. Oh, that's fabulous, Eagle and Web Design. They're just saying, I found you on Instagram via Co-Work Crew. So that's amazing. And I hope you enjoyed that chat that I had with Penny last week. So yeah, that's a little bit about what has stuck out from the conversations for me. Some of the boundaries that I've put in myself. So I'm a massive advocate for curating your own feed. So again, we choose what we want to engage with. Even when we first set up an Instagram account, and I'm using Instagram as an example because it is the place where I hang out the most, hence why I'm doing these lives. I'm a big fan of all things wellbeing. So a lot of the people I follow are wellbeing providers. They're people out there who are promoting or talking about mental health. They're talking about there's a caveat to this. So mental health, big fan of like promoting, but obviously that does come with some trauma related stuff as well. So I do have to be careful with certain elements of what I'm consuming, because it can obviously bring up stuff that's happened in the past, for example. But I choose whether I want to spend time looking at that. So generally from a graphic, you can get a really quick glimpse as to whether it's something that actually you're capable of digesting right now, or whether you want to skim past it and perhaps come back to it when you're in a better headspace. I think that I've also, so along with the wellbeing stuff, I also follow a lot of other small businesses. So a lot of you who are online at the moment, Ange, for example, is another brilliant freelancer I've met through the Being Freelance community. And Ange is a great example of like someone whose content is always like really positive but real and authentic as well. So just even the colours that she uses it with her brand, for example, just it brings cheer to my feed, and I love seeing the stuff that she posts. So yeah, I think stuff like that is really important. During COVID, I stopped actively watching news channels on a TV. That doesn't mean that I'm ignorant to what's going on in the world. I do still digest stuff that's going on. I follow BBC News and other news outlets on social media, but I make an active choice about when I want to consume that content. Because for me, if I am scrolling, and I do have a bit of a habit, because let's face it, we are all human, I have my 20-minute scroll before I go to bed in the evening. Probably not the best time to do it, but it does mean that I'm even more conscious then about what I consume. So I don't want to be looking at news just before I go to sleep at night. So I will skip through that and then come back to it when I'm mentally ready. So my evening scrolls tend to be looking at content that's either well-being related or something that's going to make me laugh. So there's a lot of really funny stuff out there on social media. So there's nothing better than a good belly laugh before you fall asleep. So the other thing that I have been really good at with social media is setting boundaries. My boundaries in my real life are pretty dire, but on social media they have been really good. So even with things like WhatsApp, all of my notifications are turned off. So with the exception of 1 or 2 people, and that's literally because I have a unique family and I want to know if there's an emergency going on, and someone perhaps doesn't always want to ring to let me know that, you know, there's a crisis. So I leave family notifications on, but everything else is turned off. I then choose when I want to go into WhatsApp and read the messages. And I've got, I think on iPhones, I don't know if it's with all smartphones, but certainly with iPhones on WhatsApp, there's like an archive section. So I've actually got all of my chats, bar family, in the archive section. So that then I physically have to go into the archive to see the messages that are in there. Which means that all of my group chats are in there. So again, it just means that if I want to go in and answer family messages, I see them first, and then I can go and look at the archived messages in my own time. You know, I'm sure you all know what group chats are like. Horrific. I'm in so many. And, you know, sometimes I go and look at them and there's like ridiculous amount of messages. And I'm like, my brain cannot cope with that today. So I leave them and then I just come back to it, either when I've got a bit more time on my hands or when, again, I know that my brain can deal with consuming that amount of messages, if they're even that important in the first place. So yeah, notifications is a big one for me, and I've done the same across all social media apps. So Instagram notifications, never have them on. And yeah, you know, maybe sometimes it does take me slightly longer to get back to people as a result of that, but honestly don't think it makes that much difference. You know, people know that you're not ignoring them if they know you, and probably if they don't know you, then drop me an email. I'll get back to you much quicker. So yeah, all notifications are off. Curating my feed. I'm just trying to think what else I was going to mention. I also don't check my phone in the morning. So I know a lot of people, and again, I'm terrible at this. So my phone is also my alarm clock. So I do sleep with my phone next to my bed. But I will not look at my phone except to hit the snooze button. Far too many times. Before I actually actively open my phone. So I don't open my phone until I'm sitting at my desk in the mornings. Obviously that's slightly different at the weekends, but you know, Monday to Friday, I do not open my phone, even to communicate with my family, until I am sat at my desk. Because for me, it's part of my routine. It protects my well-being. I need to be able to get up in the morning, go and have a shower, get myself, you know, in the right headspace for the day, and then I'll open WhatsApp. For me, the other apps can wait until lunchtime unless I'm doing stuff for a particular client. But the other thing I do in terms of like client work, so I use a tracking app called, probably isn't how you pronounce it. I think it's pronounced Toggle. So that allows me to time all of the client work that I'm doing. So if I'm working on a particular piece of client work, but I need to dip into Instagram, for example, I'm going to lose my trail of thought now. Good old perimenopause. What do? I go into Instagram and I specifically will just go to their page and then do what I've got to do for that client, and then come back out of it. You know, Instagram's still going to be there at lunchtime. I do give myself an hour's lunch break. There's plenty of time to have a quick check on what's going on in the world of Instagram. So they're probably the main boundaries that I've put in place. I do think one of the really key things that came out of all of the conversations was that human bit. We are all human, and we do all find ourselves at certain times just scrolling aimlessly. And it's just being able to check in with ourselves and going, wait, hang on, I was online quite a lot yesterday. And I think Karina said it in my chat with her. If you notice one day that you've spent an awful lot of time online, then the next day perhaps just make sure that you go out into nature a bit more, go for a walk, you know. And again, I'm very lucky, and I know that I have beautiful scenery on my doorstep here in Lewes, and it's very easy for me to, even if I've been staring at the screen all day, I know that for my own sanity I need to get out and get some headspace. And you know, I've got beautiful walks on my doorstep, so literally I can take a 10-minute walk and be surrounded by fields and nature. So, you know, I'm very lucky, I know that. But even when I was living in the city, I do think that just walking around the block, my eyes, I don't know about anyone else, but my eyes certainly can't cope with the screen time anymore. So I get to the end of the day, and if I've not looked away from the screen, I'm like, right, I need to go out for a walk, even if it's to walk to the shop, you know, and get myself something for dinner. And just said, I have time limits on my apps. Also just downloaded the Opal app. I haven't heard of that, Ange, so I will have a look at that. That sounds interesting. Time limits are really good. So, but again, as a social media manager, I sometimes look at my time limits that I think on the iPhone, it tells you how much time you've spent online that week. I think I get a little notification through, and I've stopped looking at it because it depresses me. I feel like I've not been online that much, and then it tells me that I've been averaging like 5 hours a day on my phone. I'm like, how have I even done that? But I also do get into a habit of my phone is on, but I'm tapping away at my keyboard, so I just haven't shut my phone down. So I think I like to tell myself that is how my time limits go up. But yes, also on things like Instagram, I've got a night mode on there. And actually I'm thinking of releasing some guides just in case people aren't familiar with how to switch on time limits and stuff like that. Brilliant. Angela's put, my Instagram time limit is nearly up. Do you know, mine cut out. So during my conversation last week with Penny, I got halfway through the chat and my Instagram time limit came up and cut off our conversation. And it's probably going to do it during this one as well. But, you know, these things happen. Love it. Love being tested. So, yeah, there's some of the things that I've put in place. And in some ways, you know, I'm very aware that it has come quite naturally to me to put these boundaries in place. But I'm quite far into my own wellbeing journey. So I knew that going into the world of social media that I needed to have those boundaries probably before I even set up my business. Others, you know, I am still learning. Like I said, I've learned something brilliant from all of my guests. So again, I just want to give them a massive thank you for joining me, because they took their time to spend half an hour, 40 minutes with me over either a lunchtime or in an evening. Even before the England game, thanks Sarah, to come and engage with me, to come and have a chat. And I really hope everyone took as much from those sessions as I have, because honestly, they're just brilliant people and I've learned so much from them. I would love to know, either in the comments or, you know, if you're watching this on replay, the things that you've taken away from these sessions, because that will certainly help me, you know, build the next Instagram Live series that I launch. So I have already got the next one up my sleeve, just to finish off. So I am going to do another series in February time. I was going to try and squeeze it in before Christmas, but it's not going to happen. Especially because one of my clients is, they operate 2 Christmas markets. So November, December are pretty busy periods in the world of the Mindful Ginger Nut. Not least with like the normal Christmas festivities that we all get up to. So yes, I'm going to run the next one in February. I will be looking for speakers or guest speakers for that soon. So keep an eye out on my channels. I would love to have more people joining me for those. I might run it for a slightly longer period of time. Thanks, and yes, Erin has also been trying to get me to turn these into podcasts. Erin is also in the Being Freelance community, and I think actually she started her podcast from Instagram Live. So I'm reluctant to do it at the moment, but who knows, it might become something. I'm also very conscious that I'm not very good at listening to podcasts myself. Like, I have a very definite like 20 minutes and I clock out. Like, my attention span, I have an attention span of a gnat. So yes, I'm going to run another series anyway in February, and I'll let you know more about that soon. I think at the moment it's going to be, sorry men, I am looking for women this time. Men could have joined me this time, but I didn't get any men wanting to join, which was a bit of a shame. But so the next one will be focused on probably perimenopausal women, because it's a period of time that I am going through myself. And I think as many of the people who are watching on this channel are female business owners, kind of want to do something around that. So if from that vague description that sounds like something you might want to guest on, please do drop me a note. But I will be putting a more active campaign out there, trying to get some guest speakers for that later in the year. So watch this space. Plenty more to come from the Mindful G, and honestly, it's been so much fun. I was so much more nervous about doing this one, by the way, than I was with any of my guests. I've still managed to rabbit on for nearly half an hour. So whether any of it makes sense, God only knows. But anyway, just as a final reminder, don't forget, social media should work for you, not against you. And your well-being always comes first. So if you need to take a break, please take a break. I don't think deleting the apps is always the answer, but sometimes we also need to do that. So, do what's right for you. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye.